welcome back to the channel. Today we are gonna be reacting to some crazy pesto stories.
Call me crazy if you want, but I've never liked store-bought pesto.
Susie, that's crazy.
I love how this
One time my
started.
friend went to go get her hair done on Melrose, and she gave me the keys to her car to borrow for a couple hours. So I went to go get a muffin and a nice coffee, and I get in the car, and the key's not working. So I try FaceTiming her, she doesn't pick up. I look around the car, and then in the center console I found another set of keys. So I'm like, oh, she just gave me the wrong keys, that's so Jenna. So I start the car, adjust the mirrors, the seats, plug my phone into the aux cord, enjoy my muffin. She has sunglasses in the little dashboard that I put on. I even go as far
My
to
guy
take
was
a
making himself
boomerang,
comfortable.
and then I take off. I go to my friend AJ's. He's also friends with Jenna. He gets in the car. We
Why do I
gab
feel
for
like
like
they're in
20
the wrong
minutes.
car?
He roasts Jenna because there was like an origami bird in the dashboard. And he's like, what is Jenna into paper cranes now? I'm like, I don't know. We hug, he leaves. I go on my way back to where Jenna's getting her hair done. It has now been an hour. Jenna FaceTimes me back and she's like, hey. And I'm like, hey, I just called because you gave me the wrong set of keys, but it's okay. I found the other set that you had. And she's like, what are you talking about?
Oh,
and I was
no.
like, you gave me like a push to start key, but you didn't give me an actual key. And she's like, my car has never had like a keyhole or whatever.
Oh,
And then she like looks closer and she's like, are you even in my car?
Oh,
I like show her the interior thinking that she's joking. And she just goes, that is not my car.
Oh,
I literally
oh my
almost
god.
passed out. I'm like, what do you mean? She has 3 people working on her hair. They're all looking over. They're like, what's he talking about? What? And Jenna's like, that's not my car. And I'm like, Jenna, I've literally had this car for like an hour.
Oh my
I start freaking out
God.
because I think the cops are like probably searching for me and then gonna like tackle me when they see me or something crazy. I'm like, there is no way that anyone's gonna believe me that I thought that this was your car. So Jenna's like, don't worry, just go back to the spot and try to park it as close as you can as a spot. 'Cause it's on Melrose. It's a popular street. It's probably going to have, the spot's probably going to be taken.
Oh my god.
It was. I drive up a block and park it on the opposite side of the street and then just book it. Jenna happened to be done getting her hair, so we go get her in her
That
actual
is
car.
mortifying.
And we do like a little drive-by situation. And we just see this couple about like in their 30s. And all the doors of the car are open. They're like searching around, so sketched out. And Jenna's like, we have to tell them. And I'm like, okay. So I literally walk up to this couple. It's like this girl who looks like she's been crying. And I'm like, hey, I am like so sorry, but I thought this was my friend Jenna's car and I found this like set of keys in the center console.
God.
Explain the whole situation. Her and her boyfriend just like stare for like 10 seconds. And then her boyfriend's like, this is the funniest story I've ever heard. And then the girl's like, oh my god, thank god I had called the police and they
Oh,
came
boy.
and they didn't
I'm glad
believe
that they
me,
made light of the
they just thought I
situation, guys.
forgot where I parked the car, but I was like, no, this is this is the first time that I could finally afford to shop at Acne. It was the most exciting day of my life, and I always just leave a spare set of keys in the center console just because, I don't know, it's just what I do. And sometimes I leave the door unlocked.
No,
And I'm
you
like,
should
girl,
not do
totally
that.
get it.
Ever, guys.
The kicker
Don't
was
do
she was
that.
like, I was so confused because when we got back in the car, there were crumbs all over the seat. And I found like a receipt to like a coffee shop and all the seats were adjusted.
muffin.
I was like, I am so sorry. I literally showed her the boomerang that I took. And then Jenna and I basically like booked it out of there because I didn't want them to, I don't know. I just didn't know what they were going to do. Yeah. I have a lot of these that I could do.
Oh my god, you have a lot of this, sir? Oh, goodness gracious. Dude, do not let your car unlocked, first of all. It's a big no-no. I'm very glad that they ended up being very chill about the situation, which is good. I'm also glad that they're probably also glad that the person that got into their car was someone that was just purely by accident and nothing else. Nothing was touched, nothing was stolen. Now they just have some muffin crumbs to clean out of the car. But oh my god, I am mortified of this ever happening to me, like getting into the wrong car. It has happened a couple of times that I almost entered the wrong car, guys. I've never actually did it, but that has happened. But this one is a whole nother level to that situation. Oh goodness gracious.
Call me crazy if you want, but I've never liked store-bought pesto. I don't know why. I think it's because it never has.
Girl, that's crazy. Anyway, years ago, my family and I went to Portugal in the summer. We
Ooh,
typically
Portugal.
went every summer. This summer in particular, we were going for my cousin Sarah's wedding. My birthday's in July. We went in July. We happened to land on my birthday. It was also my 10th birthday. So once we landed, we got settled in. They did a dinner for me, and I was naturally exhausted, so I fell asleep. And like I said, we were visiting that summer in particular for my cousin Sarah's wedding. All my extended family's in Portugal, and that's why we would go every summer. So I had a dream about my cousin Sarah. And this cousin lived on the same street as my grandparents. And that's usually where we stayed every summer we went. We always stayed at my grandparents for my dad's side. So I dreamt that I was walking to her house. And in my dream, my grandpa was outside. And he was like, Sarah, where are you going? And I kind of looked at him and I didn't even say anything. And my dream was really vivid. Like I remember looking down at my socks and I had one purple sock, one pink sock, and I was walking kind of weird. So in my dream, I finally get to my cousin Sarah's house and I see her green gates because they had these green gates before you entered their house. And in my dream, these green gates were open. So I was like, sweet, like I can just walk in. So I walk into their house, and just to give you guys some context on how their house is set up, they have their house and then they have an extension.
I always
of their
love
house.
vivid dream stories, guys.
Laundry, they have their pool. Just imagine that setup. So I go into their bathroom. Eventually, I wake up from this dream. So I think I'm still dreaming and I go back to sleep. Then I wake up again and I realize I'm still in this bathroom and it's not my cousin's bathroom. So I'm kind of freaking out because just a little while ago I was sleeping at my grandparents' house and I'm in a bathroom that I do not recognize.
That is
I step out of
very
their
weird.
bathroom, I open up the door, I get out, and I'm outside because like I mentioned, their house setup was like my cousin Sarah's house where they had an extension to their house, and as soon as you walked out of their outside bathroom, you were outside. I walk outside, I see this man. The man looks at me, I look at him. We're both very confused. I'm 10 years old. I don't have a cell phone. I have no idea where I am, how far I am, how I even got there. The only thing I had working for me is that I speak Portuguese. So he asks me who I am, and I'm so confused. Like, I literally have no idea how I got there, who this person is. I was just sleeping. I said, hi, I don't know how I got here, in Portuguese. He's like, are you my daughter's friend? Do you know my daughter? I don't know your daughter.
Oh my
So he calls his daughter
god.
over anyway, and he asks her if she knows me. She doesn't know me, and I explained that I just got to Portugal. I was dreaming about my cousin Sarah, and they said, "Oh, Sarah, the girl with the long hair. She's getting married this summer."
Oh my god.
I said, "Yes, that's Sarah." They said, "Oh yeah, she's getting married this summer. Okay, we'll take you to her." So I get in the stranger's car.
Oh,
They
that's
take
scary.
me to my cousin Sarah's house, and on my way to my cousin Sarah's house, we're stopped because we see people on the road, like just stopping random cars because they're looking for someone. We finally get to that group of people, and I see it's my family. My family is stopping cars, so looking for me. It's my mom. She's like, "Have you seen this girl? She looks like this, da da da. Have you seen this girl? It's my daughter." And I'm like, "Oh my god, that's my mom." Like I had no idea where I was still. Thank God I ended up in a good person's house, and they actually took me home because when I said that was my mom, they wanted to make sure that like I actually knew them and they were my family. They were like, "Are you sure this is your family?" I said, "Yes, this is my family." I got out of the car and I saw my family. For some reason, I thought I was in trouble. I don't know why. Portuguese parents. Moral of the story is I did not go that far. I was on the same street, but on the opposite direction of where my cousin Sarah was. The house just looked very similar. It was all real. It wasn't a dream. And for the longest time, I was so afraid of sleeping. I did not trust myself sleeping. I slept with a big water bottle because in my 10-year-old brain, I thought that if I was holding onto a big water bottle and if I got up because I was sleepwalking, the water bottle would fall on the floor. My mom would hear me, get me, and I wouldn't sleepwalk. I was traumatized. So that's the story of when I slept off when I was 10 years old and ended up in someone's bathroom, but like the pesto was like insane.
That is such a crazy story. Oh my god. Like I always find it fascinating, like sleepwalking. Like fascinating in the sense that it's just like an interesting thing that happens. Like it's a curious event. Like I mean it's very, very bad in certain circumstances, but I'm very fascinated by it and how it works. Cause like this is crazy. You just think that you're sleeping and you're just in there. Now you're in just some random person's house. That is very, very scary. I am so glad she ended up in a good person's house. That it has probably been like the worst scare that her family has gotten to. That is so concerning. But I am happy she got back to her family Well, but that is a very crazy story. I would say that is crazier than pesto, if you ask me.
Call me crazy if you want, but I've never liked store-bought pesto.
Oh my gosh, Susie, that is really crazy. I actually hate pesto myself, so I don't really understand the
don't really
thought
have
of
a lot of
store-bought
pesto.
pesto, but you never know. But it does remind me of a story from when I was little. My mom and my dad got divorced, and it was a really, really nasty divorce. But as they're going through
Same
the divorce,
here.
we still lived, and it was my mom, my sister, and I in this beautiful house in New York. And one day we come home from school and we're just having fun, playing around. My mom's doing her thing. And all of a sudden, all of our electricity goes out. So my mom calls the electricity company to figure out what's going on. And she finds out that my dad stopped paying the mortgage, the electricity, the water bill
Wow.
for months. And that we actually needed to leave our house immediately because we weren't going to have any water, any electricity, and the house was going to be taken anyway. So my mom, with 2 young kids, I was about
That
1
is
year
terrible.
old. My
I
sister's
feel
5
so
years older
bad.
than me, leaves, packs up as much of our stuff as possible, and we wind up staying in my mom's car because that was the only place we could live. And for
Wow,
weeks,
that is
we
not
literally
fair.
were
That is
living
not
in the
fair at
car
all.
until my stepdad, who literally had just met my mom, found out about it and told us basically, absolutely not. We cannot be living in a car. We need to come move in with
Oh,
him.
wow.
And he saved us. But on top of it, funny enough, the New York courts at that time were not the best and had told my sister and I that we needed to still see my dad Tuesday, Thursday, every other weekend, and then 2 weeks in the summer. So my sister, funny enough, went to sleepaway camp, and my mom was taking me to Florida to see my grandparents, my cousins, all of the fun stuff. So we're at the airport, and when we're at the airport,
Oh, I
that's
think I know where
before
this is
security,
going.
all of the fun stuff. You could just walk up, you just go on the plane, all of the good stuff. So I'm in my mom's arms because I'm still very, very little, and I have my stuffy, and we're getting ready to board, and all of a sudden I feel hands on me, ripping me away from my mom. And I just see my stuffed animal drop, and my mom screaming bloody murder. And if you've ever met a New York Jewish mother, you know, 1, we're loud, but 2, it's even worse when something really drastic happens and she's going berserk, and all of a sudden I look up and I'm in my dad's arms and he's
What
just
the
running
hell?
through the airport, and I am basically being taken. I'm screaming,
That
I'm
is so
crying, I
scary.
don't understand what happened. I just want my stuffed animal. But we get into a car and he starts driving, and I basically am like, what is happening? I don't know, but I'm with my dad, so I guess it's okay. And we get back to his house. From what I find out later is my mom was trying so hard to figure out where I was going, what was happening. She really didn't understand. She called the cops. The cops weren't happening. Fast forward a couple days later, and the cops finally come, knock on my dad's door, get me, and bring me back to my mom. Well, we go back to the courts so she can basically say he kidnapped me. They tell her, absolutely not. He's my father. He's allowed to take me whenever he wants.
No.
Well, I still have to go see him. After that, my sister was able to say she didn't want to see him anymore. So she stopped seeing him, and I still had to go Tuesdays, Thursdays, every other weekend, and 2 weeks in summer. So fast forward a couple of years, I am still going for the 2 weeks in summer. And I just wanted my mom that summer. Like, I wanted nothing to do with being anywhere else. I wanted to be with my friends, my mom, my stepdad, and just have fun. So I concoct this whole entire thing in my head that when it gets super dark, I'm gonna go find the landline. Yes, because that's what was out there. There were no cell phones. I'm gonna find the landline and call my mom and tell her to come get me in the middle of the night. So it gets dark. I know my dad and his wife are still awake, but I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna go do this. So I tiptoe out, I call my mom, I'm crying, I'm telling her I just want her to get me, and all of a sudden I hear footsteps and I'm freaking out, and I just see the phone cord get pulled. I'm taken, I'm pulled into my room and pushed there, thrown, and furniture flying, yelling is happening, basically
Wow,
saying I can
that
never
is
talk to my
awful.
mom again. How dare I? This was his time. And he locks me in my room. I find out that my mom and my stepdad were trying so hard to get the cops to come get me, but no one would say that they would come get me. So I'm just in this house hysterically crying. I don't know what to do. I just want my mom. Fast forward to the next day, And he basically, my dad packs my stuff and says, I need to leave. Go. And he lived in an apartment complex. So I went down the elevator by myself, stood on the corner of a very busy street in New York. And my mom and my stepdad came, picked me up. And that was the last time I ever had to see my dad. But you know what, Susie? That was a really crazy story. So I agree.
Wow, this is a lot. First of all, I am so incredibly sorry that that has happened to you, but divorce is very complicated thing. I am just so shocked how the court dealt with it. Like, Portugal is a little bit different than the US. Like, I have had some conversations with Dre's about this because I'm not really familiar with how the US works too much when it comes to child services, but I am also the daughter of divorced parents, and here when it comes to those cases is very complicated. Like, the court does not really do a lot to help you, and clearly in this situation, like, they really didn't do anything. So I think this is like just the example of like how the system can fail someone. Like, this whole trauma could have been avoided. I mean, there's always gonna be like trauma because that dad just completely decided to not like care for his daughters, because by not paying the rent and the mortgage, not letting the mom knows, that left the mom completely with her rug pulled. So I cannot imagine why someone that showed how much he cared for his daughters by doing that, because when you do something, like as a father, when he was doing that to the mother, if he was trying to be petty towards the mother, you are hurting your kids. You were also hurting your daughters. Your daughters also had to sleep in the car. Your daughters also had to go through all of this trauma. He basically freaking kidnapped his daughter out of the airport. Like, even though you're a parent, when it comes to divorce, at least here in Portugal, like I was saying, guys, every time I traveled with my mom, I would have to get an authorization from my dad to be allowed to go out of the country. Because if I didn't got that, it would be considered that I was being kidnapped, even though my mom had more custody of me than my dad. But so when he just snatched this lady out of her mother, I would think that would be considered kidnap. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter how it went. It was against one of the parents, like, consent, it was against it. So you can't just take something. This was a very crazy story, but that pesto though, yeah.
Call me crazy if you want, but I've never liked store-bought pesto.
Susie, you're a savage and you're a beast, and I'm here for it. Not as crazy as store-bought pesto, but one time, 10 years ago, I used to deliver pizzas for a pizza place where I live called Spinelli's Pizza. They were open till 4 a.m.
Wow.
And oftentimes, as a pizza delivery driver, I would have to deliver pizzas to the West End, which is the most dangerous part of town. So one night I go into work to deliver pizzas. It is the 1-year anniversary of my brother's death. My brother died at U of L hospital in the emergency room. So I go into work this night. It's the 1-year anniversary, and I'm told that I need to deliver a pizza to the emergency room at U of L hospital. I had never delivered a pizza to this hospital before, so I just thought that was really hard. But I go to deliver this pizza. Mind you, I went into work that night grieving already. So I'm grieving full on. I'm driving there, bawling. I go into the ER, I see everything again, and on my way out, I'm bawling. I'm in my car now, driving back to the shop, and I'm just crying my eyes out. And this might seem unrelated, but I think there's a correlation because I was like in this pretty strong emotional state when I hear screams. So I'm hearing these screams. I decide I'm gonna follow the screams. I should also mention that at this time I used to keep a 22 in my glove box. It was for my protection. I didn't keep it loaded. So anyway, I'm driving to where I feel like these screams are coming from. I have to zip past some construction cones to get to where these screams are coming from, and I roll up on this dude. He's choking this woman out, and she's screaming, or she's trying to scream. At this point, I see him choking her, and it's just silent. She's like trying to scream, and nothing's coming out. So I drive up on him and I take out my gat. I point it right at him and I scream. I was angry. Grief turned to anger. And I pointed it at him and I screamed at him to let her go. I was cussing. And he looked at me with wide eyes and he said, "You will not shoot me." And I looked at him and said, "I will shoot you, mother." And then he let her go.
Oh
and
my God.
He ran off into the cement, into the cement jungle. And she just stood there so shocked. And I tried to I asked her if she wanted to hang out for a sec. You could call the police, I could take her home. And I don't even think she said a word to me. But then she just runs off. And that was it. My adrenaline was going so hard for so long. I got back to the shop and I was like, bros, you would not believe what just happened to me.
Yeah.
It was crazy. Not as crazy as store-bought pesto.
Wow. Oh my God. Okay. I am trying to process this video. This is so insane. God, I don't even know how I would react. Prop to you, girl, to acting on the spot like that. I would just freeze up. I don't know how I would react. It's always very interesting to hear stories in this in this situation, being a person from Portugal, where barely nothing ever happens. But it is scary as a girl to have to go out at night like that, especially to a very, very bad part of town, especially grieving a loss. Having to work while grieving a loss is very, very tough. This had everything to be a very bad night, but I am so glad because at the end of the day, it's fate decided to put this girl actually in the right spot at the right time, because if it wasn't for her, that other girl would probably not be able to be alive still. So I guess in a way, it is a crazy story, very, very dangerous, but it seems like you were able to be at the right place at the right time to save a life. So you're a freaking hero. Oh my God. That's crazy. I am so glad that everything ended well. I hope the police caught that guy though. I really, really hope that was the fate of that man. But yeah, pesto, am I right?
Call me crazy if you want, but I've never store-bought.
Susie, that is absolutely unhinged.
Unhinged.
That reminds me of the time I accidentally got sucked into a cult. So I'm living in LA, and one day I walk into this yoga studio near my apartment, and everyone there is dressed head to toe in white, and I get this really weird vibe, but I end up doing the class, and the yoga makes me feel amazing, so I keep coming back. One night I walk in, and there's a super young, charismatic woman teaching on stage, and she's cracking jokes and working the room, and she seems really fun, and she's talking about spirituality in a way that's millennial girl boss Tony Robbins, and I'm totally into it. For a couple years, I am in my mid-20s and I had just quit my 9-to-5 job. I'm feeling super lost. I'm craving purpose and belonging, so I just start binge watching.
That's usually how cults go about things, guys. Usually cults take advantage of people that are in very vulnerable emotional situations, and we have to be very, very careful because they give you a false sense of security, and then it can get very bad. It can get very bad, guys.
This woman's content to comfort myself, basically. Scrolling through Instagram one day, and I see a job post on her page looking for somebody to help her with her book launch, and I'm like, this is a sign, this is my dream job, and I apply, and next thing I know, I'm working for this yoga guru. And everything is amazing at first. I'm traveling with her on her book tour. She's getting a ton of press and Vogue and People magazine. Wow. She has all these celebrity followers. The company's growing really, really fast. There's millions of dollars in revenue, and it feels like I'm on the ground floor of the next Goop or something. But then things start to shift. She becomes verbally abusive. She is screaming at us in meetings. She's sending all caps messages that are completely unhinged at all hours of the day and night. I am becoming severely overworked and burnt out and sleep deprived. Years go by like this, and then in 2020 things go from bad to just extreme. She starts spending hours every day watching conspiracy videos on YouTube. She becomes even more paranoid and delusional, and her moods just get even more batshit insane. At this point, I start to wake up and realize, oh my god, I just spent the last 4 years of my life in a cult.
4 years? That has been enough span of 4 years.
There's a lot more details
oh
to the story. The cult is still active, but at least they didn't make me eat store-bought pesto.
Exactly, girl. Exactly. At least you didn't have to eat store-bought pesto, because that's a tragedy. Wow. Like, cults are very sneaky, guys. I'm telling you. Like, every time I've seen cult related like documentaries and stuff like that, it's always the same pattern. It's always trying to get to vulnerable people emotionally, giving a false sense of security, and then everything shifts. Currently nowadays there's still a lot of cults out there. It's just very hard for the outside, because cults are illegal. Like, there's not supposed to exist cults, but I think it's very hard for people to distinguish what a cult is, to actually be able to be like, no, this has to stop, we have to break this down, or just a little association, a little fun place. You know, it's very, very hard, because usually the cult activities are very secluded to the group, so no one ends up knowing what's happening inside, so it's very hard to label it as a cult. But they're wild, guys. They're wild. But once again, at least you didn't have to eat store-bought pesto, because that's just insane. Thank you so much for watching this crazy pesto story, guys. If you enjoyed this video, you might like this one. Make sure you give us a like and subscribe, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Bye bye.